Earlier this week, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle debuted on Xbox, PC, and Xbox Game Pass. My expectations for this game were not low, but they weren't really high either. I just am really accustomed to big-time franchises that get some sort of media spin-off, video game, cartoon, anime, comic book, whatever, not being treated correctly, not living up to the standard that was once set by that franchise. That's not to say I don't have faith in Bethesda. I love tons of Bethesda games and Bethesda studios, like the studios they own, like Machine Games. I have faith in them. They have a good track record. Yes, there's been mistakes by Bethesda, but I'm talking about overall the games that they primarily make and produce and publish, and then like Machine Games as a studio, they're quality. They're things that people enjoy. But again, all too often you see a big time name and you're like, oh, Indiana Jones is attached to this. Is it just going to ride nostalgia and the image to try and get sales or interest, or are they actually going to make something good out of it? And in the case of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, so far, I've played a bunch of it, but I haven't completed the game yet. But so far, like, it's really living up to it. Besides the technical aspects, like the graphics are absolutely fantastic. The character modeling is fantastic. The speech does not look like it's out of Oblivion. They actually capture the universe. It feels like you are in the world of Indiana Jones. It feels like you are in that time frame, in those areas of the world. And it's true to the heart of the characters as well. Early on in the game, I'm not going to give spoilers, but early on in the game, when Indy is packing up to leave the school, the college or whatever, to go gallivant the world, there's this one little moment that occurred that like immediately sold me on the idea that they know what they're doing. Besides like the gameplay up to that point, there's this one character moment, and I don't play most games for the story. It's nice to have the story there, right? A great story really makes a game even better. However, gameplay is always number one. If you have great gameplay and a crappy story, you still have a great video game. If you have crappy gameplay and a great story, well, you have a great visual novel. You don't have a video game. But in this case, the gameplay to that point was actually really good, and I was very much enjoying it. But this one moment occurred, and I was like, oh, they know what they're doing when it comes to the story and characters. This is going to be good. And it continues to progress from there. Gameplay-wise, it's really easy to say this, and it's probably partly a nostalgia thing, but it feels like a game from the 2000s. And I say that about games here and there, very specific. They hit a very specific tone for me when it comes to your involvement in it, right? Like, it's not just holding your hand and taking you from place to place and then saying, okay, do this action, right? Everything you do is like gameplay, and all these mechanics are here, from using the bullwhip to disarm enemies and take their weapons away, and use them or stun them, or using it to grab onto something on a wall and pull yourself up, to the hand-to-hand combat, the actual like fisticuffs of the game. It like everything feels legitimate, right? But then you go from that, it's not just an action combat game. You go to doing all these like different kinds of puzzles. Like, it's not just a certain format of puzzles you use throughout the game. It's all different, and it feels like the kind of things that Indy would encounter in the world. In one room, you're doing this kind of, you only find it because you wandered off the beaten path. That's the part two, is there's actual exploration. But you might find a safe, and then a note or a letter next to the safe that kind of gives you a hint at like how to solve the puzzle, right? And there's like these two statues in the room that you turn them, you go pick them up, turn them over, and there's like these symbols, and you match those symbols to a star chart you've picked up, and you figure out what the code is based on it, that kind of stuff. But there's tons of different things, and all these different little activities you have like amount to one full experience of, this is Indiana Jones, but not just like action sequence to action sequence. It's like you're in the behind the scenes parts of the movies, the things you don't see between those sequences where he's moving about the world and solving things and interacting with other people. So really impressed so far. I will definitely be playing a lot more of it this weekend and coming week. But give it a try, especially if you have Game Pass, where it's available on there. I think it's on Ultimate. I don't remember if it's on the core setup yet, but either way, give it a shot if you have access somehow, and honestly, it might be worth a full purchase. Boise State Broncos football team has made the college football playoff. I know I'm about a week or two beyond that actually occurring, but I also wanted to see the results of the Heisman, and we know how that went. Snaps are not a stat. Anyways, this is like a huge deal, not just for college football and, you know, the school and stuff, but like for fans that have been there for any length of time. I've been a fan of Boise State football for approaching 25 years. I believe 2026, the year they actually are supposed to be in the new Pacific Atlantic Conference, would actually be 25 years since I've followed this team. I had my family had moved to Boise in 2001. I had never heard of Boise State University, obviously, because they only joined Division I football in like 1996. Prior to that, growing up in Florida, I had been a huge Florida State fan. I still like Florida State and will root for them occasionally, but honestly, I've just kind of, once you live in a town like Boise for so long and go to games, tailgate, be part of the community, and it like literally just becomes part of you. That is your hometown. Like, obviously I don't live there anymore, but nearly half my life was spent there. And like, I got to see in person, not just like watching the whole seasons on TV, seeing the original Fiesta Bowl win and the ones that followed after that, the ranked seasons and all the other drama that went on. In person, I got to be there. My first game that I went to was in 2002. So I got to be there to see like all these quarterbacks like Ryan Dinwiddie, who's, you know, right there with Kellen Moore. Obviously did more when it came to wins and huge stat records and, you know, obviously, you know, winning Fiesta Bowl and things like that. But Ryan Dinwiddie was like that guy before Kellen Moore, just not on a national stage really. Anyways, and then I got to see Jared Zabransky, Kellen Moore, Brett Ripien, and even the interesting in-betweener quarterbacks, like if anybody remembers Joe Southwick, that was an interesting situation. But being there for all this, being a part of that community, growing up there as a teenager and a young adult and everything, to see where this team has come, you know, where this program has come to, is quite incredible. To go from 2006 winning a BCS bowl game, you know, back when the BCS really hated, you know, non-power conference or whatever you want to call them teams, and watching the team play ranked and try to compete for this stuff year in and year out back then, and, you know, even in recent years too, just not as consistently, to watch them now in the first year of the 12-team college football playoff make that playoff, and not only make the playoff, like everybody's like essentially assuming that the 12th seed, the last position in the playoff, was going to go to the group of five, they call it, but, you know, the non-auto qualifying bid, and for them to end up in the third seed is quite incredible. And like, even if they don't win, it's huge. I really do believe that they have a shot at winning their game. They have a bye week. They get to be super healthy, you know, and rested by the time, and very well prepared for either Penn State or SMU. So, and that's one thing Boise State has always done. When they're this successful, it's always been on the backs of detail, preparation, and you know, obviously hunger to win. And so I think that they are in a very good position to at least win that first round that they get. That would be huge. And then they would move on to the Orange Bowl down here in Florida for their second round, which would be incredible. Cool thing for me as a fan, growing up there, Oregon was always kind of like the most hated non-conference rival. Like, we just hated Oregon, the Ducks, because we had games here and there against them, and until this year, we won every single one of those games. And there was also a cultural regional thing going on between, Oregon and Idaho right next to each other. So this year has been a little bit different. It's been strange. There's been a lot of respect between the programs, and Boise State basically taking Oregon to the final second, and that being our only loss. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, my hope here, because they made the 3rd seed, it means they wouldn't face each other at all in the playoff. So my dream scenario is actually Boise State versus Oregon in the national championship, because not only would I like another shot, and for if they won to have it be against them, but if they're to lose that game, I'd prefer it be against the best team in college football. So obviously it's been a massive year for Linkin Park and Linkin Park fans and rock fans, with the new album releasing this year, with the band coming back together. The singles have done exceptionally well, of course. I mean, I guess that should be expected. For Billboard sales, From Zero doesn't get to chart for the year because of when they stop counting for the year. It's like October or something. So the album will chart for next year's total sales, which will be really good because they'll have an entire year of selling it. But for the Billboard Music Awards, which they actually just performed at, which was great, they actually did win the awards for Top Rock Duo / Group and Top Hard Rock Artist. Not only that, but Revolver Magazine, which is big in like rock and such, named From Zero as their album of the year. And this is probably going to be the case all over the place. It's Linkin Park, first of all. Like, that alone typically kind of like sets them above most everyone else. When you have 20 plus years of being Linkin Park, with the sales, the cultural involvement and popularity, then that's just kind of automatic. Weird thing to me is that Mike Shinoda and even the rest of the band, they didn't really think it was automatic, but it was always going to be. But just on top of that, the album, besides like sales and singles doing well, like the album is just so solid front to back. Such great, as always, exploration of different sounds, but at the same time tying themselves to some of their old sounds and elements. It's been really fantastic. I still, months later, listen to it multiple times a day. It's an experience on CD as well, and probably vinyl. I would like to get the vinyl, but like the audio quality and mixing is so incredible to hear, even from like a cheap CD player or boombox or whatever. It's a completely different experience to listen to it from a physical format than it is from like streaming on your phone or something. So next year is going to be huge for the band. There's an insane amount of shows that they're doing next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get like some random new songs out of that as well. But they also keep adding new shows to the tour, wherever they've got some space. And like, I think it was Canada, they actually added additional shows, and Europe, I think they added additional shows just because they're selling out so fast, and they give people the opportunity to go. But yeah, for me personally, going to Welcome to Rockville this next summer, I'm super excited about that. I was talking to a coworker today who went, because there's other artists I would like to see. It's a festival, and they have like multiple stages each day. And one of the other stage headliners is Dayseeker, who I think is like, they're definitely my favorite current band that's not Linkin Park, but I think they're definitely the best current band that has come out that's not Linkin Park in the last, or at least got more popular in the last few years. And I would love to go see them. The problem is they're on a completely different stage, and I don't know how it works. I haven't been to a festival like this before. So, but they told me they will publish like a schedule showing the times for all these different shows. And so if it's too close to when Linkin Park comes on stage, like if it's like in the same set of hours, like I'm not even gonna bother. The lineup for that stage for Linkin Park has like POD, Taking Back Sunday, Incubus, Hoobastank, and I'm sitting there going, like, as somebody that grew up in the era of all those bands in the 2000s, like that would be an incredible show. But yeah, I would love to check out. Either way, I just look forward to the atmosphere, the environment, being among thousands and thousands of other, not just Linkin Park fans, but like rock fans in general. I think it's going to be kind of an incredible experience. So really looking forward to that. Looking forward to another huge year for Linkin Park. And if for some reason you haven't checked out the album yet, you definitely should.